especially small to medium-sized nonprofits, it's important to acknowledge and account for the scarcity and scarcity mindset that really influences the way that a nonprofit operates. Um, Frequently funding, viability, and especially any kind of long-term viability is all dependent on donors, grants, and sometimes government funding. When the pandemic hit, the the tsunami of uncertainty really shook the organizations, and because of this scarcity component and the scarcity mindset, that affects the way that a lot of nonprofits operate. And what I mean by scarcity mindset is that there are organizations that do have resources, and yet the term nonprofit, which really is just, as we know, it's a famous statement, nonprofit is just a tax categorization. It is not, it's a tax status. It is not a sector. And yet that's why we like the term social good, social impact, etc. But by virtue of recognizing or aligning as a nonprofit, it affects the way that the key decision makers operate in relation to resources and budgeting and so on. And so that also meant that pre-pandemic, the idea of automating or investing in technology, that's considered a luxury as opposed to a necessity. And as a result, yes, there's no question that there was that they were rocked by this. I know massive nonprofit organizations who were so paper based that that their staff didn't have what to work with as they had to migrate all of their information to the cloud for the first time in 2020. And it was really, really jarring. It also, I was just thinking about an example and it escaped me. So I'll come back to it when it comes back to me. But in addition to this idea of relying on technology, it had to be free for a lot of these organizations, right? Because again, there's a scarcity component. And so the accessibility of Zoom or Google Meet or what have you, or the free platforms, that was really important. But then the professional development that needed to come with onboarding a lot of the different professionals, many of whom were generationally not aligned with the latest technology that was coming out. And it was fascinating to see because it wasn't just an older generation, it was the older generation and it was Gen Z as well, in the sense that Gen Z was busy engaging on multiple platforms at the same time with multiple browsers and activities and chats and everything going on, that it was very difficult to actively be present in whatever the organization was offering. And on the older side of things, it was really difficult to help the older participants, boomers, echo generation, feel comfortable navigating the technology. So those were two pieces. And all I would say is that you had asked Adam if there was sort of like a significant movement in the pandemic in terms of forcing the online remote opportunities. I would say even further, it was like ripping a Band-Aid off. This was long overdue, especially in the education sector, which is where I spend a lot of time. This was very, very long overdue, and it's very unfortunate that it caused it required a global pandemic to push us to this stage. And at the same time, there were so many of us who were grateful for the opportunity to explore the opportunities that will now come as a result of it. So, and the amount of educational triage and professional triage that I observed within my clients and within the various sectors that I work with, and how the responses to the disruption were not only embraced but then rapidly innovated was really promising to me. And now I'm sitting here thinking about and working with my clients on what are the things that we want to preserve. What are the implications of using the term back to normal as opposed to what is the next normal? Because that's something that's really significant as well.